Stage 1. Now, as you make your decision that you actually want to buy a property and you start to shop around and you have identified a few targets. So before you buy a property, what you need to know is really a few issues that you really have to determine. Number one is that you have to think the type of property that you want, really residential, commercial land or whatnot. You see, the property currently, I'm sure you heard of condominium, I'm sure you heard of service apartment. What is the difference? Okay, actually it's like that. If you talk about a normal condominium or apartment, it's actually normally on the residential title, alright? And then if you talk about a service apartment, when they call it like that, it's really on the commercial title. It means that the title allows for commercial activities, right? What is the difference? Actually, just for information, for residential, the quick rent and assessments and whatnot are actually lower compared to commercial land. Alright, so if you buy it, naturally your contribution towards the assessment, quick rent is for the services provided to you, are actually higher. The percentage is higher. So if I'm not mistaken, residential is 5% of the value, and the commercial land are actually at 8% of the value. So there's a difference in that. Now, other than that, there are also other differences. For example, you know, the telephone charges, yeah, for commercial usage is higher. Utility charges for commercial usage is also higher. So this will also determine the type of investment you look at, because long-term wise it will have an impact on you, right? Number 2, availability of land title, land or strata. What do you mean by having a grant? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, just for your information, Malaysia practice a title ownership called torrent system. What it means is that every piece of land would have a title, like it or not. All right. Now, when I said strata is a building, you will get it subdivided, and that airspace, or I call the pigeonhole that you own, all right, will have a strata to it, i.e. a title. So eventually, all the property in Malaysia, just for information, maybe you don't get it now at this stage because it's in the process of issuing the strata titles or whatnot. But at the end of the day, all property would have a piece of title to it, okay, and it will be properly registered under our system. So that's the thing. So there's a common saying. They said whether the property is with title or without title. You know, what does it really mean? When I say with title, it means the title already been issued. Okay. When you say without title, what it really means is that the title is yet to be issued. Maybe it's in the process. Okay. So what is the difference between these two? Just for information, if it is with title, it means the transaction can be done in the land office. In the land office. So your land registered, you go there, you can effect the transaction over there. Now, if it is property without title, right? You cannot transact this kind of property in the land office yet, alright, until the title is issued. Meanwhile, the developer will play a role as a temporary land registry. So they have the big book, they said, okay, it's now A sell to B. So in my record, I will say now the owner is B. Because when they apply for the subdivision of the title, they will say now the owner is B and not A, right? So that's the whole thing. So don't be confused by the term that commonly used with title or without title. What it actually means, the title issued or not yet issued. Okay. Then you have is the land free from encumbrances. This is very important. So because if you buy a property, you have to ask a few questions. When you say encumbered, it can be like, is it charged to the bank? Simple as that. Or would there be another caveat inside? What is a caveat? Caveat is basically like a flag. Last time, if you draw a boundary in the land, you have to put a flag. Means that if anything, please contact me. Right? That's how it started. We call it a caveat. It's basically is to put a note in the land register to say that I'm putting a caveat because I have a claim or interest in this property. All right? So you have to check whether they are caveat or not. If a land unreasonably got a lot of caveat, then you must start asking why. Why is there a lot of caveat? So people laying a claim towards the owner of the land. So these are red flags that you have to take notice. Now, next question is the land charged to any individual company finance. Like I say, if it's encumbered, in this sense, you have to see whether not only you can charge a financial institution, or maybe you can also charge an individual or company for certain loan that's given out, you know, on as a security basis. And then one of the key things is this. In Malaysia, it's very peculiar. Just for information, under the federal, we have a federal government, right? We have state government. Under a federal constitution, it is provided that states actually regulate for all the land matter. All the land matter is regulated by, it's actually within the province of the state government, right? The federal government is only there to facilitate, to standardize the process and procedure. Therefore, we have federal legislation to tell you what are the forms that you need to use to effect certain transaction, to register a charge, to effect a transfer and whatnot. But when it comes to really administrating the land and ownership, it's actually a state matter. Okay, they will use the same form because you say so, it's for standard, but at the end of the day, the decision is come to state authority. Now, not every transaction requires state authority consent. I tell you a few that necessarily require state authority consent. The one, if the title says so. The title would say that this land cannot be transacted without the state authority consent, right? What it means is, your transaction lawyer will need to do it to apply and provide enough time to get this state authority consent. So what happens is that in KL, you're looking typically about 1.5 months to 2 months to get that consent, right? For example, and every state vary because it depends on efficiency of the state administration, right? So in that sense, that you need state authority consent. Another one that definitely requires state authority consent without caring what is it all about, whether it's stated in the land or not, although it doesn't say. If you are a foreigner buying Malaysian property, right, definitely requires state authority consent. It is stated there. But I've not seen any rejection thus far, right? So ladies and gentlemen, what happened is that it's a process that you have to go through. I have not seen a rejection so far. Alright, so basically it is really 1.5 months or 2 months later you will get that. So what your lawyer really have to remind you is that, because all this will be factoring into your decision making. Because like for example, how long you have to make the balance purchase price available, you know, how soon you need to get a bank, you have to plan. A lot of people, like for example, they are getting married, therefore they get a house, right? So they said, okay, we target, my wedding reception is actually 3 months down the road, so I want my house 3 months down the road because the next day I will stay independently, right, for example. But most of the time you have to understand, is it possible? If it's subject to the state authority consent, for that matter, you have to add in another 1.5 months to 2, right? This is important for your planning. Or, not just that, even if you are at the end of your tenancy, you say, okay, I do not want to continue my tenancy anymore, I want to have my own house, right? So you have another 3 months to go in your tenancy, so you have to plan. See, because you might end up in a time where you have no house, you already say, I don't want to renew my tenancy, alright? And yet you can't get your house. Okay? So these are valid and practical issues. You must voice out. Never hide from your lawyer, just say why you need the house. You need for investment, it's different story. You need it to use, your own use is different story. When you need to use it, it's very important. You must actually convey this to your lawyers representing you. Therefore, they know how to adjust, and they also tell you whether your target is realistic or not. Things like that. On a very